Malaysia implemented GST on 1 April 2015 under Najib Razak as a multi-stage value added tax system capped at 6% with zero-rated essentials for fresh food, waters and electricity, and exemptions for education and healthcare. GST enable input tax credit supply chain, transparency and fraud control via mandatory by declarations to custom. However, GST was zero-rated on 1 June 2018 and replaced it by SST on 1 September 2018 under Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. SST is a single-stage tax, risks a double taxation as levies occur only at the consumer point, often embedded in prices, reducing transparency. SST applied varieties rate such as 5%, 10% and from 1 March 2024 and 8% service tax up to 6% with exemption for specific sector. SST required monthly filing but less administrative burden than GST's detailed multi-stage process.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we're breaking down the differences between GST and SST into 5 major different aspects: the base, the rate, the taxable goods and services, the administrative body, and also indexing. When it comes to the base, GST was a multi-stage tax applied throughout the entire supply chain from production to sales, while SST is a single-stage tax applied at either manufacturing or at consumption. The rate, GST have a flat rate of 6, SST have multiple at 5 and 10 for goods. March 2024, we have 8% for most services, but some still being at 6%. When it comes to the goods and services, GST covers a wider range of goods and services with some exemptions, while SST cover more specific goods and also specific services like professionals, food and beverages, hospitality. When it comes to administration, GST have a more complex and strict documentation under Royal Malaysian Customs Department. SST have a simpler and more business-friendly with less complications. This is the most interesting part. Indexing, SST causes a cascading effect, tax on tax increasing the final price. GST avoids it by allowing businesses to claim a input tax credit, which means that it's a value-added tax applied at every stage of the supply chain, but with the difference that the business is allowed to claim back the GST that they have paid on their purchases, making it more transparent and also efficient. Thank you.
Okay, so which one yields the higher revenue, GST or SST? Let's break it down. So for GST, it has a broader tax base, applies to more goods and services, and it includes input tax credit, which encourage compliance and reduce evasion. In contrast to SST, it covers fewer sectors. It leads to double taxation and classification issues. It is less transparent and making enforcement harder. So for the conclusion, GST is more efficient and generates more revenue than SST for the government.
Today I explained how SST and GST affect what we pay as consumer. Under SST, tax is charged many times, like on raw material and then again on the final product. This make price higher. The tax is hidden, so consumer don't see it but still pay more. Under GST, tax is charged only once at the final sale. Business can claim back tax they already paid. This help keep price fair and often cheaper for consumer. In short, SST higher price because of double tax. GST lower price because tax is clearer and fairer.
Why the government continue with SST instead of GST? The first is public sentiment. GST is criticized by many of citizens of Malaysia, especially lower income group, because it increase the cost of living for them. And SST exempt more goods and service than GST. Next is business friendliness. SST is simpler and easier to understand and to administer, while GST require more complex reporting and accounting. Other than that, SST can lower the cost efficiency for business owner because they does not need to hire specialized agent tax and new computer software or system. And lastly is political consideration. Well, even though GST generate more revenue than SST, but it creates many political risks and public dissatisfaction. So the government choose with SST to prioritize stability, especially when the COVID-19 recovery.